Hey there, YouTube friends. This is Carrie with Any Day Blessings. And last night before bed, my son begged me, pretty please and all, to start school today. And I was not quite ready with science or with geography to start. I was just trying to get some supply lists together and just look over the material because I am doing parent-led this year pretty much with everything but spelling. And I don't have a spine. I'm kind of doing it all on my own. So I took a little bit of time this morning to organize my thoughts, and I thought I would just walk you through kind of my weekly planning process, what I think is going to be the way we're doing it this year, and some tips on getting started with Apologia. Now, I am using their Chemistry and Physics course in their Elementary Young Explorer series, and this is usually recommended for the upper end of that range. I think these go to 6th grade. I don't know if it says somewhere in here. But I think these are like kindergarten through 6, if I'm not mistaken. If it says it somewhere, I can find it easily. No, it doesn't, but I'm pretty sure it's K to 6. And these, this particular course, most moms recommend doing it towards that 5th or 6th grade range. I'm doing it with a 3rd grader. So I am going to be modifying the assignments and what we actually do as far as reading and all of that. I'm going to walk you through all of that. So I got the junior book because I am doing it with, like I said, a 3rd grader, and then a four-year-old will tag along. What I'm looking for, if you happen to know if you're familiar with this, I'm looking for, I thought I found online somewhere where you could download just these coloring pages. It's like a printable thing, and I can't find it now. So if you have happened to find that before and you know where you can find just the coloring pages, I'd be interested in that so I could print those off for my daughter, because according to the copyright, most companies will say, okay to copy within your own home and things like that, but this doesn't say that up here, so I don't want to go copying them to use for my daughter as well if that would break their copyright. So alright, so the first thing I do, I'm going to move this aside for a second, and the first thing that I do, or that I did when I was starting the planning process here, I went through and read the front matter. Now, I know we all just want to get to the lessons and we skip ahead, but this stuff up here in the front is incredibly important. I'm going to tell you why. So read through this introduction, okay? There's a course website here. I'm just going to cover up the little password so that, I don't know, I think everybody has already seen it by now, but this is the course website, and there are extras that you can, extra activities and things like that you'll get when you purchase the book. But this right here is probably the section I would encourage most, because there is a schedule, and I will show you in a minute. There's a schedule in the notebook of how to do the assignments and how to break it up, and they schedule one lesson every 2 weeks. That's how they break it down. But I felt that looking at those to-do lists for each day was just too much for us. Like, we would not get through all of that in one day. And I was so encouraged. Number 4, I'm just going to read this to you. Unless you are following the schedule in the notebooking journal, continue reading until you feel a natural break is at hand. And as I was reading that, I just took a huge breath, you guys, because it was like, okay, that's what I was thinking to do. We're just going to read until we feel like we've had enough science to fill our appetite for the day. Each family will differ in the amount of reading done in each session. Some families become extremely engrossed and want to read an entire lesson. Now, what my son likes to do instead, he likes to go off on rabbit trails. So we will read probably what ends up being a rather small portion per day in the textbook, but then he'll want me to look up this term and show me a picture of that and this, that, and the other. That's how he likes to do science. He's an explorer. He's a researcher. He's a fact finder. He likes that kind of stuff. So I was encouraged when I read this, because that's really how I wanted to do this course. And so I kind of felt like I had permission from the author, which I know we can do it how we want. We have that freedom, but it gave me that extra encouragement to go with the plan that I had. So I look at the intro. The second thing I did was I looked in the back of the book, because there are often resources in the back of the book as well, especially when there's no teacher guide, which Apologia is just an all-in-one book here. There's no teacher guide. So I looked back here, and sure enough, there was a supply list for lesson 1. These are all the supplies you'll need to do the activities in these little blue boxes here, and the end of the chapter projects, or the end of the lesson projects right here. So all of these supplies cover all of those. There are additional kind of experiments or activities in this book. This supply list does not cover those, okay? So if you choose to do the end of the lesson activities in the notebooking journal, you'll need to gather those supplies separately. The other thing that was back here, and I actually put one of my handy dandy post-it notes there, was the answer key. The answer key goes to these questions, what do you remember? And this is at the end of the lesson. So these questions have little fill in the blanks, or sometimes it's just a question, what is mass? Why is mass not always measured by weight? All of those questions are answered back here, okay? So if you have an independent reader and they will be reading a lesson on their own, but you kind of want to just do a little bit of check to, gauge their comprehension, you could do these, and, not having read the material, you can just use the answer key in the back. Now, according to that introduction material that I already showed you, this section right here was intended to be done in an oral narration style. So question and answer verbally, not written down. Of course, you can change it up however you want, but that was the intention, that this would be an oral discussion. So that was the first thing I did. I kind of got the lay of the land of the book, reading the front material, looking at what was in the back. The next thing I did was I opened up the notebook that we're going to use, and again, we're using the junior one. I believe this one is K to 3, and then the other one is recommended for 4th through 6th, I believe. I could be wrong on that, but I believe that's what it is. And again, I do read the introduction material here to see how things are suggested, and then I kind of take it from there and make it my own. Here is that suggested schedule I was telling you about. It's in the notebook, not in the text. So if you need a schedule for how to go through things, that's in the notebook. And as you see, lesson one over weeks 1 and 2. They do it 2 days a week. We are doing science 3 days. So we are still going to do it in 2 weeks, but we're going to do it 3 days per week instead of 2. So we will have six lesson days in each lesson. The next thing I did was I started to look at what some of the first lesson activities were, and I just kind of took a look at what kinds of activities were included, and if there was additional activities, which indeed there are. So these here, like I said when I showed you the supply list, these activities, the supplies for these are not included in this list, okay? So you would have to gather these supplies separately. But one thing I noted was the book suggestions are here for the chapter. So what the next thing I did after I read in the textbook and got the lay of that, the next thing I did was I started to make a mental note on my post-it note to check out the book suggestions. So I made myself this little cheat sheet of what to do to plan each lesson, and I'll just stick that post-it note on the cover of my book or right inside the cover. And these are the 4 little steps that I'll do whenever planning a lesson. I will go ahead and request. I'm probably going to stick through the K to 3rd books. There are 3rd through 6th grade books offered here, but I'm doing this with a 3rd grader and then a 4-year-old tag along. So I think getting the K through 3rd book suggestions is probably going to work best for us. So that's the next step I'll do. I will, after looking through the book, looking through here to see what kind of activities we have, I will then head to my library's website and check out these books or reserve these books. Then the next thing I'll do is I'll actually start to make an experiment shopping list. So I'll go through and make sure that I have things on hand, or even things that I can substitute out. I probably won't use this list back here that I already showed you, but I probably won't use this, you guys, because half the time I might say you need, okay, 2, let's just try and find something that you might need a piece of, this kind of fabric or whatever, and I might be able to substitute something else that I have. So I have found that when I make those, just buy up those lists or buy a kit, I could have easily substituted something I had and everything worked just great. So I actually look at the experiments themselves, and it says, okay, I need a graduated cylinder, I need this, that, and the other. Well, I don't have a graduated cylinder, but I do have a very skinny bud vase that I can take a dry erase marker and mark the top of the water line and then drop in a rock and show my child displacement. I don't need to purchase this just yet. So I actually look through the experiments themselves, and then I make my little post-it note shopping list from the actual experiments. So I'll go through and I'll do that this morning real quick, and it really doesn't take that much time. I know you might say, oh, this is a lot of prep work, you know, but after you do it a couple times, you get really good at just skimming through and seeing what you need. It really doesn't take that long. I would say probably 5 minutes or less for me to make that list, okay? Then the last thing that I will do to prep for a week is I will, if I find out that we have permission to do this, I have reached out to the company to ask if I can't find the downloads for this. I'm almost certain I saw the coloring pages as a download somewhere, but I can't find them. I reached out to the company to ask if I could photocopy this, and partly because my son likes to color in marker, so if he colors in marker, he's gonna ruin the page behind it, and maybe even this page too. But then also it will give my daughter something to color while, you know, because she's inevitably gonna want to sit there and listen and do what her brother's doing. So I have reached out and asked them if I could just copy these coloring pages for use in our home, not with the intent to keep this book clean and resell it or anything like that, but just so that my daughter has a page to color too. I'm really hopeful that they'll let me do that. But so then that's what I'll do. I will copy the coloring page for that lesson. And then I thought what I would do, that's all the prep work I would do. Okay, so look through the book, look through the notebook, just to get the lay of the land, not really even reading it, but just kind of get the lay of the land. Go through, make my experiment shopping list, go through, make my book suggestions list for the library, and then if I need to, photocopy. What I thought I'd do now is just actually show you what we plan to do, how we plan to divide this up. So I'm going to pull this away just one little second here. I'm going to show you about what I expect to read in one day with my child, okay? This is about how much I expect we're going to get through. So here is lesson 1. Here's the very beginning. Okay, reading all this. And then as we get down to here, I'm thinking whenever we get to an experiment box, that's when we'll stop. We'll kind of end with that. So we're going to read all of this material and then stop at this box. That will be our reading. While we're reading, I intend to have my children color that page. And I'm noticing just in my very, quick flip through that the front page really goes along best with the copywork verse. It's not always the same exact verse, but the idea of God creating the world and sustaining it, he holds it in his hand. He is before all things, and in him all things hold together. It kind of goes along conceptually best. So I'll probably have them color this page. So while I'm reading day 1, they'll color this page, and then after I'm done, my son will do this fascinating facts page, and that will be day 1. Day 2, we will read some more about the same length and do an activity. He will do the fascinating facts page here, and then he will come over here and do the flat book craft. Now, if you, I probably can't call it a craft though, because he won't do it if I call it a craft activity. I call it a craft. It's an easy way to get him to hate it. All right, so day 2, he will do this, but I'm not going to have him actually fill in under the flaps. I'm just going to have him cut this out and paste it into here and get it ready for the next day, because he's already going to be doing the fascinating facts, and then that's just a lot of writing for him to then also come under here and put all the little things that he learned about it underneath. So I'll just have him prepare the flat book on day 2. On day 3, he will do the crossword puzzle and then fill in some of the facts under the flaps on his flat book. Day 4, he will do the copywork first and then fill in the other parts of his flat book. Day 5 If we are still reading in lesson 1, which lesson 1, I don't know if they're all about the same length. I haven't looked through all of them, but lesson 1 has quite a few activities towards the end here. So I don't know if we're going to get through all of the reading by day 5. It goes, let's see, it's, how much is it? It's page 16 to 27, so 11 pages. We'll probably get through that in by 5 days. If we're done, if we still have stuff to read in the book by day 5, I'll just have him use this like to go over some of the blue boxes, like what I did and what I learned. He will fill this out on day 5. If we have already finished this, like if we finish this in 4 days, then what I'll have him do is some of these extra activities for day 5, and then write what he did and what he learned. So day 5 is kind of flux. If we still have reading to do, we'll do it, and then he can come over here and journal some of what he did and what he learned. I might just let him draw a picture up here, even though this isn't a picture box. I might even paste a blank piece of paper up here so that he can just draw a picture and then write about something he learned. We'll see. But
can you put Sam outside? He's gonna destroy my painting.
Is he bothering your toys? Okay, yeah. Hold on 1 second. Okay, sorry, I had to rescue the dolls from being eaten by my dog. Okay, so as I was saying, day 5 is kind of in flux as to what we'll actually be reading. If we still have reading to finish in here, then we'll do it and do this page. If we are done reading the lesson, then we will just do some of these activities and he will use this page. But day 6, what I'd like to do, and again, this is all just preliminary planning here. We'll see how long, the lessons actually take us, but I'd like to land here on day 6, okay? So, and when I say day 6, I'm just talking about the number of days we do science. So we're doing science 3 days per week, so this will be at the end of 2 weeks. What I'd like my day 6 lesson to look like is to read the final matters. I absolutely love this. I love that they say, okay, so where does this bring us? And you guys, I've been looking at the final matters for other chapters and listen to the beginning sentence. Isn't it wonderful how God created so many different things when he made the earth? They just kind of use this opportunity to bring it back to the Lord, and I love that. Knotgrass does something similar in their history lessons, and I just feel this year like I finally found things that present material how I wish I could if I could write books. So I'm just thrilled. I'm thrilled that they have this little section here. I will read this, and then we will go over what do you remember, and I already showed you where those answers are. We will. If there are any activities that for some reason we didn't do, we could go over there and do them, and then we will do our project. But I think we probably will be mostly done up by day 6 in our books. I won't need to finish too much over there, but if we do, we will go over there. But day 6 is mostly going to be these 2 sections and our final project. So that is how I'm hoping, or that is how I'm planning a lesson to go in our Apologia Science for what we're calling 3rd grade in Exploring Creation with Chemistry and Physics. That is how I do it. It seems a lot more doable to me, having read the introduction material and understanding the author's intent was not to, overwhelm us, but just to provide a lot that we could pick and choose from. And so that's how we're, working it out. Real quick, I'll just review. I read through the book, I read through this, I pick out our books that we're going to get from the library, I make our experiment list, and then that's it. That's the prep work I'm doing for each week. All right? I hope that was helpful. I hope that gives you, maybe allows you to take a breath if you looked at this like I did and was like, whoa, that is way too much work for a 3rd grader to do in one day. That's just, I think, for people that do like an hour of science at a time or 45 minutes of science at a time. We don't do anything that long here. We do everything 20 minutes or less around here, and we just do short chunks and do it more frequently. So that seems to work better for us. Let me know in the comments if you have used this. Let me know if you have actually found the coloring pages, because I'm almost certain I saw them, but I might be imagining it. And let me know if you have actually heard from Apologia. Maybe you've reached out or know someone on the website that gives permission to make copies for use inside your home. That would be really helpful too. And I will catch you all in the next video. Take care.